Alright, so here are my thoughts on the 2008 sci-fi original movie called Ogre. I, this movie, I love it. I think this was a really good movie for what it is. It's a low-budget film about an ogre, and it just works so well. It flows so well. I love the pacing. I just love all the elements of this movie, and it comes together to form this really nice piece of work. That's it in a nutshell. But let's go through that step at a time. Let's start with the plot. This movie, it's because it's called Ogre and it premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel. Everyone's first instinct is going to be, oh, it's a monster movie where this big monster is on the loose and it's killing people and it's just a bunch of B-movie fun. But it's not. That's not what this movie is. This movie does so much more because there's this town, this 1800s town. The movie starts off in that time period, 1800s. There's this disease that's going around. It's not explained at the time. It's explained later on, but it's kind of like a smallpox, or it's some sort of hives type of thing. And this one, it ends up killing like the leader of the village. And so this other guy, played by John Schneider, his character is Henry Bartlett, and he likes Jay. So, well, I can do this. I can help us. And he has like this staff that he's like a, it's not magic. It's like dark magic. He has like a book of spells, and he cures the disease by using his magic. I'll just call it magic. But the price is the disease will stay gone, but the disease there's a manifestation of their disease which turns into the ogre. So the ogre is like the it's a manifestation of their disease. That's pretty much it. It's the price they have to pay, and every year during the winter solstice they have to sacrifice someone to keep the disease from coming back and keep the ogre at bay. And through that they get to live forever. So it cuts to present day, and the town's still as it is. It's lost in time now, and there's an ogre that they have to feed during the winter, and it's the winter solstice, obviously, so the movie can have an effective plot when these hikers stumble upon the village, and they see this guy being chosen as the sacrifice, and so they're caught by authorities and imprisoned, and then they have to get out, and they go free the guy on this. Actually, the summoner, the Henry Bartlett guy, can change who's the chosen one. They wear the mark on their hand. It's a pentagram. He changes it to one of the hikers, and they put him on the stockade and chain him up. But then Hope Bartlett, Henry's daughter, like frees him because it was Hope's boyfriend or something that was on the stockade. He was the original chosen one, so he's like, "Oh, you can't do this, father, no!" And it's like all this drama, and then they free the hiker from the stockade, and then they go, and one of them dies, and they're not okay. So they're not allowed to leave this village because they'll disintegrate, and you see that happen to a character, and that's why they can't leave. Because this movie, if you pay attention to the details in this movie, it fills its own plot holes, or you can use it. You can use your interpretation, or what is it? You can just fill in the plot holes by yourself if you pay attention to some of the small details. Like, why don't like one of the questions is why don't they just jump over the all jump over the border if they can do that and they'll die and they'll be free of this because a lot of them don't want to live in this horror anymore. So why don't they all just jump over the border and die? So. But the reason for that is, like, in the beginning, they hear these ghost voices. It's like a very subtle detail. They don't talk about it more, but if you pay attention to that, the hikers hear these voices in the woods outside of the border. So it's like unless the ogre's dead, their spirit's still wandering there. So it's like there's no way out basically unless they kill the ogre. So that's why the movie makes sense and works in the end, and that's why it has a climax and fills its own plot holes. So. Yeah, the hikers leave, and then They explain to the police what goes on. They don't believe them, of course, and then they come back, and the rest of the movie is them like preparing to kill the ogre, and eventually doing it. Spoilers: the ogre dies. Oh no! But this movie has a lot of elements to it. Just it's not just bland. Like the stuff it does, like they have these rituals, like the circle of salts they'll pour around their house and light a candle, and that keeps the ogre. That's like puts a force field around the house so the ogre can't invade them. There's just a lot of things that add up to this movie that like give it character and like so you can remember this movie because it's not just this movie takes itself seriously and it works because let me just say the one bad thing about this movie that people are obviously going to rip on, and it's pretty much the only thing to do rip on, is the CGI ogre. It's an ogre, it's CGI, and it's not the best. It's not the worst. It's definitely not the worst. And in a lot of instances, it blends in well with the environment, so it looks passable. But a lot of times, you can also definitely tell it's fake. But if you're not an effects whore, like a lot of people are, then you can get past that, and it'll work. See, what else do I like about this movie? Just pretty much everything that builds a movie I like. Like the acting, I think the acting's solid. John Schneider, who was in Dukes of Hazzard, the TV show, he plays this role. He plays it up good. I mean, he comes off as he's the father of Hope Bartlett. He's the Magi who's like in charge, and he's calling all these shots, and everyone doesn't question his authority, and he's like a rugged 1800s guy, and it just he pulls it off well, and there he gets into arguments with people, and there's just a lot of back and forth with characters, and that's what really sells this movie for me is the dialogue, because there's a lot of arguments between this like Henry and Franklin, two characters. Franklin's this other guy who kind of disagrees with what they're doing. They get into an argument. They go back and forth. He questions his authority, and he's like telling them what they should do, and it goes back and forth, and the scenes where they're arguing, they escalate really well until it gets to this high point, and it's like they just like get out of here, and then it drops and moves to the next scene, and it just creates really good pacing. And Henry argues with his daughter also, and it's like pretty much everyone is against Henry in this movie, and including his daughter, and she's like trying to get everyone to fight the ogre, and he's like telling him, "Oh, it's a ridiculous dream of a child." He actually says that line, and I like how the dialogue, like it gets all heated and argument, but it stays civil in like 1800s ish. Like used vocabulary, just really proper things like Henry saying to Franklin when he's like he thinks he's like coming off strong. He's like, "You walk a very dangerous line, my friend." Like stuff that just sounds cool to hear in that type of setting. But then there's the hikers who Ryan Kennedy is the male lead hiker, and Catherine Isabel. Catherine Isabel's been in some hit and miss movies. She's widely regarded as a really into it actor. Like what she plays off really well, and she does that in this movie. There's some parts where she's annoying, and it's like I just want her to like stop doing what she's doing. Like there's one scene that kind of made me cringe just because of how stupid it is. It's where they get once they leave the village and they're like wandering around for a long time. They get to back to the road, and she gets on the road and kisses the road. I'm like, that's stuff in cartoons, man, but whatever. There's nothing else in like that movie is that distractingly stupid though. But then the hikers go to the sheriff, and that scene is really cool because I just love the dialogue in that because they're like trying to both tell their stories at the same time, and the sheriff's like, hold on, you're gonna give me whiplash, you go. And then one of them tells the story, but my favorite piece of dialogue this movie has good comic relief in throughout the movie, but my favorite one is probably when Ryan Kennedy's character, I think it's called Mike, just says to the sheriff, "Do you know what an ogre is?" And Catherine Isabel looks at him like, "What did you just say?" He doesn't actually say it, but she's like looking at him like, "Are you crazy? You can't say that." And the sheriff's like, "An ogre," and Ryan's like, "Yeah, lives in the woods, eats people." Sure, I know what an ogre is. Anderson, like he has the sheriff has a assistant, another cop with him. He's like on the phone, kind of not paying attention. He's like, Anderson, you know what an ogre is. You know what an ogre is, don't you? Sure do. Name's Patty. Been married almost 12 years. Raising a little ogre too. And he's like pulling out his picture with him and his wife and a little kid who's kind of on the heavy side and just I like that scene. They both laughed, and I laughed, and everybody laughed, and it was cool. And even some of the side characters, like these guys that are, the movie doesn't really follow the B movie trend of like having characters for the sole reason of dying, but because like their characters are introduced early on and they last throughout the movie until eventually they die. But even they don't have a big role, but they still do it off well, and they have interesting dialogue, and it's still like one of the characters that's about to die or was like is going to die in that scene says like they're trying to find Henry because he's in the woods looking for his daughter, and the guy says he's like calling out Henry's name. He's like, "Be quiet. Why don't you set a table for the ogre before you invite him for dinner?" Just funny, like you wouldn't say that in the same way in modern day. This movie was written well for the 1800s dialogue, and I like it. This movie does have a little bit of gore. Some of the blood is CGI, but there's like two death scenes that are pretty cool. One of them's a head getting bitten off, and he like the ogre spits it out, like flies across the screen. Another one's where he actually like this guy trips and like his gun like shoots him in the leg or something. It seems confusing because I don't know what exactly happens, but you hear the gunfire, and then he like makes a really like extreme cry, like he's in pain before the ogre even touches him. So I assume the gun shoots him in the leg or something, but it doesn't show that. And then the ogre, he's like trying to crawl away, and the ogre like steps on his head and like crushes it. You see like a big splatter of blood. You don't actually see the head getting crushed, but it's I like the way it's directed because it lets you play with your imagination. You know what's happening even though you can't see it. This movie has a really good soundtrack too. I love the soundtrack. It's not one of those like invasive soundtracks that only plays when there's like a montage of something going on. It'll play in like scenes, like subtle scenes when like Franklin's saying I need men. I need people who do this for me when they're like getting ready to fight the ogre, and like people slowly like stand up and are like volunteering, and there's like this really trance-like music. I don't know. I don't even know what the word trance means or how it words, but I like to call it trance. It's like kind of like momentuming. That's a terrible verb. It's going. It's like I guess I could say escalating again. It's like slowly going up, but it's like doing it really slowly, and it doesn't climax that well. Well, I mean, it's. I'm not saying it's doesn't have a good end, but it fits well. It just doesn't get like really high and really obnoxious. It's subtle that for that scene. And the ending, I won't spoil the ending. I will say this movie has one of my favorite endings of all time. It's one of those endings that because you don't expect a lot from this movie, and it turns out to be a fun ride throughout. The ending is just so overwhelming because it's one of those endings that just leaves you thinking, I'm glad I watched that. That was worth it. That was worth this ending. And it's one of those really peaceful endings because it's not really a tearjerker. It's not sad, but it's kind of like, oh, that's cool. I'm glad that happened. And that's what I love about Steven. This movie's directed by Stephen R. Monroe, who's my favorite director of low budget films, and he just puts a nice little bow on the end of this movie. You don't expect that to happen either. You're like, okay, so the ogre's dead, now what happens? And then that scene happens. You're like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, this is so cool. And then it's over, and it's just yeah. This movie sells it for me. I really like this movie, and the soundtrack in the last scene it really adds to the atmosphere. All the soundtrack really complements this film. So if you have an open mind for low budget CGI effects, I would definitely recommend this movie. This movie is way more than it sets out to be than that people would expect because this movie has good writing, good acting, good dialogue, good direction, good soundtrack. What do you need? What do you need? You really need good ogre effects. It's low budget film. It's good enough. This movie is good enough. It's great. It's great enough. It's greater than good. It is. I like this movie. Watch Ogre.